You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates. You're watching the Inside Slant on The Sports Objective. Over the next hour, the guys will be joined by play-by-play voices, beat writers, and other analysts from around the nation as they preview this weekend's college football action. Let's hear from you throughout the show via Facebook Live, on our YouTube channel, or on Twitter at The Sports OBJ. Now, here are the guys.
Welcome into the Inside Slant right here on the Sports Objective CSO. Bubba Rosenbaum, how are you, man?
Doing well, Dave. It's been an interesting night with technology, but excited now to be talking some college football.
No doubt. Bubba, do you feel outnumbered? There's too many Daves on the show? Or...
Yeah, I definitely feel outnumbered tonight, but this guy, he's a natural to have on this week because we can kill two birds with one stone and getting previews of both the James Madison Dukes and the App State Mountaineers as he spent several years there in Harrisonburg as the play-by-play voice of JMU. And they have obviously made that transition to the Sun Belt Conference and have a conference game in Boone this weekend. So, welcome back into the show. Now with Curtis Media Group, and he hosts, as you see there on the screen, the Mountaineer Insider, a weekly program taking a look at App State football. Welcome back, Dave Thomas.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on again.
No doubt, Dave. How does that feel? You were the voice of the Dukes for a few years there, and I know you're happy to be. We're glad to have you back in North Carolina, even though it's the western part of the state, and we're in the eastern part with me. I'll speak for me, but glad to have you back. How does that feel to now you have the team that you formerly were with playing against the team now that you're covering now?
It's a little weird, to be honest. I spent 7 wonderful years in Harrisonburg, and we moved back to western North Carolina, where I'm from originally, to be near family. As a matter of fact, my wife and I just moved in with my 91-year-old mother. She's had some health issues, and so we're here to kind of help be a buffer for her. But as this transition started happening for us, I was hearing some things in Harrisonburg, and I knew this was coming. I just didn't know when. And then, of course, the schedule pops up, and JMU's coming to Boone this weekend. So it's a little surreal. I'm making sure I'm wearing neutral colors so nobody can say I'm siding one way or the other for sure.
I know you have so many friends on both sides. What do you think about overall with the game? I mean, it's great to have JMU in the Sun Belt. Something that I know we first talked to you, there was some interest, but it did seem like a lot of interest. What happened for JMU?
Well, JMU, they were always interested. It just had to be the right scenario. They saw other schools make the move, and a lot of schools made the move for TV money, which was there for a while, but then it dried up quickly. JMU wanted to make sure when we move, we're sustained. We're at a level to where we can compete right away. We don't have to spend 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 years trying to catch up to wherever we go. The word I like to use at JMU is intentional. Everything they do has intent behind it. And so they were very strategic in what they do. I think it's a great move. Now, they're not sneaking up on anybody. I think they know that now, though. JMU's had the success nationally, at the FCS level. And, of course, they've gotten the attention of some of the bigger schools. And conferences were interested in JMU, where they are geographically, what they are academically, and of course the heritage the program has built in the short time they've had a program. It means a lot. It carries a lot of weight, and they've got a rabid fan base, as you guys know, very similar to what East Carolina has. So all those things rolled up into one. They made a great addition to the Sun Belt, and again, they're going to be strong right out of the gate. Coach Kurt Signetti is a coach I put up there with Mike Houston, is how he prepares, how he studies the opponent, how he gets ready for a game, and the Dukes will be ready when they roll into Boone this weekend for sure.
Yeah, I think this has the chance to be a tremendous football game. I mean, obviously, the first 3 games for App State have been very unique, and then just down to the wire. Had a chance to beat North Carolina, failed to convert that 2-point conversion attempt where they could have won 57-56, and then after allowing 60-plus points to the Tar Heels, who do have a tremendous offense with Drake May and company, but they went down to Texas A&M, where the Aggies are still, trying to figure things out offensively, and very talented, but not nearly as experienced. as the apps are, and bounce back as in the way that you thought they would. And then last week, obviously, game day in town, and then the Hail Mary.
Yeah, the Hail Mary is something I've never seen anything like that in person. It was. I was packing my bag up, thinking about, okay, I've got to go down to the press conference now and talk to a football coach who lost a game after hosting game day. That happened to us in 2015 at JMU, and I know that was a huge cloud hanging over that whole day and that whole press conference. And so I'm packing the bag and I'm looking, and Chase Bryce as a kid, I've had the pleasure to meet a couple of times, and he really is as humble as he seems in some of the videos that they've put out. And he has this never quit, never die attitude. But we learned in the post-game press conference that play is something they work on every week. And he may have thrown it a little bit short from what he thought he needed to, but it worked out perfectly. And again, some good fortune had to come their way. But to watch that unfold and to see a collective fan base of 34,000 plus give a big sigh of relief and then explode onto the field all at the same time was a pretty memorable thing I'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, I had very quickly, Dave, since he brought that up as far as the rushing of the field, I wanted to ask him, any reports out there. I know they had ambulances that were there on the field because some of the fans getting hurt.
Nothing serious. They were very fortunate. Nobody was seriously injured, which is a good thing. So as we had to make our way through part of that crowd to get to the media room. And it was pretty intense. They were riding a high that you can only imagine. But then we got to the media room and learned some had been injured, but thankfully nobody was seriously injured. So that's definitely a good thing. That's a very dangerous thing when it happens. And fans who've been celebrating for quite a while sometimes maybe don't have the best judgment when it comes to things like that. But again, with a huge celebration, well-deserved win, even though Troy had a great game plan. And they executed it up until the last play there, and Appalachian able to steal it.
And Dave, one of the things I know Pirate fans, some in Pirate Nation, maybe you would use the term envy when it comes to Appalachian State and Boone and the athletic director. And I always say you're only good as the top. You're only as good as the person in charge. In this particular case, you guys have got a tremendous athletic director. I mean, when you think about Appalachian State and the history of that program, when you think about not only the history of the program, but the fan base, like we talked about, a rabid fan base with the Mountaineers. Can you talk about that very thing of the administration, because they are doing some great things, and to have a money game where Bubba has already told us last week you get $1.5 million for that game, and you win the game, and so basically A&M pays you to come down there and beat them.
Yeah, Doug Gillen, the director of athletics at App State, he's a visionary. He's got a lot of experience in this business, and he sees things bigger than what they are. He really does. I've enjoyed the times that I've been around him and talked with him. We've had many interviews on the phone and had been a part of some meetings with him when we were putting together the Mountaineer Insider and trying to get his vision and guidance for that. He gets it, and I think that's what it takes to be a program that has envy of your peers. Is you've got to have somebody at the top who really understands and looks not just today, not just next month, but looks down the road, but also connects with the fan base and understands that a big part of college athletics, this is a business, a big part of it now is fundraising. And what Mr. Gillen has done, he's got a terrific staff there built around him. I know some of these folks and how hard they work and what they do. So he's got the vision and the direction, but putting the staff together underneath him and then everybody collectively buying in. It's almost like a football coach who comes in, similar to what Coach Houston had to do there at East Carolina. Rebuild with vision, understanding this is not going to we're not going to do it today. I'm not even going to do it this year, but we're going to be able to do it if we all stick together and drink the team Kool-Aid. And right now, everybody's drinking black and gold in Boone for sure.
No question about it. With the both teams that you've been a part of with James Madison and Boone, what stands out to you for this matchup?
They're very similar. And watching how Coach Clark prepares a team and the things he prides himself on, toughness, defensive toughness that they build around the offensive line, very similar to what Coach Houston did when he was at JMU, now what Coach Signetti has done at JMU. Two really good offensive line coaches, and I think that's, when you look at these teams and what they're able to do, that's something that where it comes down to. And I think this game is going to be predicated on what happens on the offensive and defensive lines, to be honest with you, because you got two teams that play big boy football. And they like to get out there and roll around and make some pads pop. So that's going to be a key similarity. How they both love to run the football, and both of these teams are deep at that running back position. So that is going to be a big key too. Who's able to run the ball like they want to is going to be important. I think where it's going to come down to, though, guys, is which secondary plays the best, because these teams are going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to move it around. They're going to need a big play. Which secondary can yield either the fewest big plays or none, I think, is definitely going to have an advantage.
And that's something, there is some inexperience and youth in that App State secondary. We've seen what they're capable of, but then I know in the game against North Carolina, obviously several big plays there, and some communication issues and execution, obviously. And then also against Troy, who had a very solid quarterback.
Yeah, Troy threw the ball around a lot. We knew that coming in, that was going to be kind of their MO. They didn't run the ball that well. They ran it just enough to try to keep you honest and maybe break a big play. North Carolina threw it around a lot. JMU's got a talented wide receiver to Chris Thornton. He's a little undersized as far as his stature, but this kid's got great hands. He's got terrific speed. He has a knack for getting open even when he's double covered. He's going to challenge App State's secondary, but App State's got some really good receivers too, and the secondary is going to be an area I'm watching for the Dukes. How did they respond? They've had some guys graduate and move on through that program as well, some guys that may not have gotten as much playing time over the last couple of years. Similar to what we've ran into over the few years where you go, well, we don't know these guys. We kind of recognize the name, but what can they do? You're about to find out, and really this is going to be a big test for JMU because they played a pretty good Middle Tennessee State team and then Norfolk State. No disrespect to the Spartans, but they're not quite on the level of what App State has faced in North Carolina, Texas A&M, and Troy. So the Dukes having the bye week is probably a good thing for them to get ready, but this is going to be it's definitely going to be the most physical game they've played this year for sure.
No question about a 3:30 game on Saturday. I just saw on the website Black Saturday, so I assume that everybody coming to the stadium, it's like the man in black, the woman in black, right?
Yeah, the good thing is going to be cooler this weekend. We had a break of high to mid 80-degree temperatures in the high country. That's going to dip into the 70s, so it's going to feel more boonish, but it's also going to feel very similar for the folks in Harrisonburg. They're going to be very comfortable too. But a lot of black, a lot of noise being made at Kid Brewer Stadium. That's an electric environment. It really is something to behold when you get there and things start building and when the game kicks off. And the one thing I told some folks in Harrisonburg about coming to Boone, these students show up early and they wait until it's over. They don't leave early normally. They're there until the very end of it all. They're really bought into the program and to the atmosphere. The atmosphere is going to be a fun one for sure come Saturday.
No doubt about it. In fact, I know East Carolina's coming to Boone next year, Dave, so we'll have to catch up with you and spend some time with you. And I know I've never been to a football game in App. I've been to Boone many times, just never had a chance and have been to the campus, but not to a football game yet.
It's something you got to check out. You really got to be a part of it because it is an electric environment, no doubt about it.
Now, obviously, it's been well documented, not only the crowd that the Apps had for the first two home games, but I think all but one home game has been sold out already. And I know a lot of that had to do with the increase in season tickets, and especially with North Carolina coming to town for the initial time. But how is JMU traveling to this one? Have you heard anything there?
The indications I'm getting from people on social media and the folks that have sent me messages, hey, you're going to be around Saturday, I'd like to see you if possible. JMU always travels well within a reasonable distance. We went to not Texas A&M, we went to SMU in 2015. and there were a couple hundred folks out there, if not more, for that upset when Bad Lee went off on the Mustangs. So JMU travels well. They have a good contingent, and the one thing I noticed, no matter where I was in the country wearing something JMU, I normally get a Go Dukes from somewhere, some corner of an airport, somewhere across the street, something like that, really all over the country. So they've got a big fan base, and they've got a big alumni base in Charlotte. As a matter of fact, they're having a big Duke Club event in Banner Elk on Saturday night. But there's a lot of folks in the Charlotte area. I know some of the folks they have gone through, graduated. And JMU recruited Charlotte really well under Coach Mike Houston and Coach Kurt Signetti. They've been able to get some players out of that area. So there'll be a good showing of purple there on Saturday, I'm sure.
You mentioned that name, Mike Houston, kind of shifting away from this App State James Madison matchup. We've obviously, when we've had you on the show before, talked about Coach Houston, everything he's accomplished everywhere he's been. He's certainly a winner in every sense of the word, and we knew it was just a matter of time before he turned East Carolina into a winner, and he's well on his way to doing that. The Pirates were 7-5 a season ago, and this year they're off to a 2-1 start, 2 dominant wins over Old Dominion and Campbell, and then a near miss against top 15 NC State.
Coach Houston's a winner on the field, but he's a winner in every aspect of the game. Your white uniforms and white helmets has got your fan base. I've seen it on social media. Everybody's in a stir on this. Coach understands this is more than just what's played on the field. This is about building a feeling. It's about feeling momentum and keeping you excited in April as well as in October. And Coach Houston does that as good as anybody. He understands it. And I'm not one to say I told you so, but when you guys hired him and you say, hey, what are we getting? I told you. He's a guy that's prepared. And it was interesting when I was at JMU and Coach Signetti came in. They're different personalities, but they're so similar in so many ways in their preparedness and how they knew the opponent and the time they spent studying. And Coach Houston does that as good as anybody, but he also understands what's important to marketing, what's important to the alumni, what's important to every facet of the program, because it is bigger than just the team itself, and he does a really good job of getting that. I'm thrilled for him. He's a wonderful guy. His family's wonderful. I know this was a move as important to his family as it was anything when he took the job at East Carolina. Nice to see that it's starting to pay off for him. And if he'd be more patient, I think things will continue to get bigger for him.
Hey, and very quickly, Dave, since he brought up those white uniforms for the Painted White game, first ever Painted White game this weekend, I thought I'd show those to our viewers that may not have seen them thus far. I think that's Xavier Smith, and wearing that Painted White uniform, a very clean look, and there's a better look at the helmet.
Yeah, sharp. He brought some great uniforms when he was at JMU. Started that at Lenore Ryan as well, and it's important. It gets the fan base excited. And listen, let's be honest, that is a recruiting tool as much as it is anything. Kids, Everett Withers, who was Mike Houston's predecessor at JMU, said it's about the bling. It's about getting kids' attention. Moms and dads want to know what kind of education can they get. Kids want to know how good am I going to look when I run on the field, and Coach Houston really understands that.
And that look, that whiteout we're talking about, that helmet, it's kind of funny because when you don't see it, you can't really visualize it, and you're like, I don't know about that. And then you look at that particular case, we saw it a couple of days ago, and I was like, wow, that helmet, for example, you would think in your mind the white wouldn't work, but it really pops. I was really surprised. I have to admit that I was not too sure about it, and then when I saw it, I was like, wow.
I can guarantee you that if he's going to roll something out to your fan base and to your student body, it's going to be well researched, looked at. Do it again, another mock-up. Give me another one. He's going to make sure that it's going to be right, and it's something you're going to be excited about.
No doubt about it. In fact, after having you on, it made me feel even more pumped up when he was hired in December of 2018. And Dave, I said year 4. And I'll stand to this. So we would win a American championship. That might be a little bit of a stretch, and everybody's like, "What? Not so fast, my friend." I'm actually kidding, but I am happy to say the reason I brought that up is that Mike Houston has even the fans believing that we have a shot to win an American championship. We've never won an American championship. We've been in the league since 2014, and it's good to know that we have just a chance to win a championship. Where before, as you know, We were struggling to win games, period, much less an American championship.
Well, you're winning at the gate now. You're winning at the merchandise stand. You're winning with your recruits. You're winning with fan interest. It's not just about winning games, although that's probably the most important aspect of it. But you got to win in all layers. And for folks to be excited, sometimes it's a slower build. I mean, in 2016, when he came to JMU, he turned it in 1 year and you win a national championship. Doesn't happen for everybody. That was a magical year. There's no doubt about that. But building things slowly, you have a more stable foundation. And you can look at the players he's recruited from his first year there to who he's getting now. The interest in the players that are transferring into this program, they understand something special is happening in Greenville.
No doubt about it. I know that you've got to get up early in the morning, so we'll try not to keep you much longer. That alarm clock is going to be really bad at 3 a.m. But as far as the matchup is concerned, as far as Boone and when it comes to Appalachia State, talk about the defensive side of the ball.
Defensively, the Mountaineers are really, really good, especially up front. Nick Hampton is a guy that's going to play on Sunday. Jordan Earl, the nose guard, he carries a golden plunger around and considers himself the plunger. He clogs up the hole so the rest of the defense can work. These guys get to the ball really, really quickly. And JMU's going to bring some problems for them offensively. They're going to try to keep them off balance. They're going to try to throw some things at them that's going to be hard for them to figure out. Schematically, the Dukes are going to try to roll some things out. But I'm telling you, App State's got a really good defense. They're really solid. This is going to be a fight. Again, I think it's going to be come down to who handles the trenches the best. Offensively, you can never not believe in Chase Bryce. Cam Peoples is a running back, I think, that could have a really big day, 6'2", 225. He's a beast of a runner. But they've got depth in that running back room at App State. They believe in each other. They believe in their offensive line, which they call the Bulls. And they're going to run behind these Bulls if they can. So it's going to be fun to watch and see how creative these offensive coordinators and these head coaches actually get on both sides of the ball.
I had a question real quick, Bubba. I'm sorry. I was just going to ask a sidebar question about Scott Satterfield. It's amazing with one part of the question. Incredible how staying in. Not only back Satterfield that are around the program that are him regretting leaving App State because he was winning like nobody's business.
Well, I think they say you have to be an App State guy to play there, and Coach Satterfield, who I don't know personally, is an App State guy. He's still well beloved, and they're cheering for him to do well. This was an opportunity he got to improve his situation and his family, and you can't fault a man when he gets that opportunity because of what he built in Boone and what he did in Boone, how positive he was in Boone, got him this opportunity. Now he's got to go win there. I think he can. I think they could be a sneaky good team. He's put together some coaches on his staff that he coached with at App State. He's bringing some guys in, and he knows, from my perspective, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to get everything we got, and we're going to have guys who understand what our mission is. So I think they're going to be a sneaky team. If he gets enough time there, we've seen what he can do, and obviously he didn't. It was a reason he had to be hired in. Give him time to rebuild it. Give him time. Be patient. Don't pull the trigger. Last year they were decimated with the injuries. If they can have an opportunity to put something really special together, it may be a slower build, but it's worth it in the end if you allow that to happen.
Yeah, Dave, taking a look around the country, and final thing I have for you, what are some college football stories and things that have really caught your eye through the first 3 weeks of the season as we head into week 4?
Well, App State's been the story. They're the darling, as Coach Clark said, where everybody's darling right now. They have to continue to play that way. They have handled the attention. Coach Clark, Chase Bryce, folks in fundraising. I mean, everybody's getting a piece of the pie here. Everybody's wanting to know what's happening in Boone, what is special about Boone, and so they're finding out from the athletic director to assistant athletic directors to the quarterback being on national radio, local regional radio. So that's the story right now. Can JMU come in and can they steal the crown? Coach Signetti came into JMU and gave Coach Mike Houston his only home loss in his time at JMU. Can he come in here and start his Sun Belt career off, stealing a victory at the Rock? It is going to be an incredible game on Saturday. There's no doubt about it. But I think App State's probably the biggest story right now around college football.
No doubt about it. It's one of those things, obviously being from the state of North Carolina, the population's growing in North Carolina. There's like Apple and all these big companies, as you know, Dave, if it's east or part of the state, the western part of the state, everybody wants to be in North Carolina. And I think that's been great because there's 7 Division I schools. You have a population of 9 million people. We not to take away too much more of your time, but it's been a great story to see that. We were pulling hard for you guys, obviously, Texas A&M, and I'm not a fan really of Jimbo Fisher. You don't have to comment on that, but I think that, man, Coach Clark has done a phenomenal job, and really happy to see that for him, and obviously that fan base. And is there anything before we let you go that maybe people don't know about this team so far this year? They've done a nice job, but you're talking about handling the pressure, but is there a nice storyline maybe within the storyline, so to speak, that maybe we don't know?
It's just about their program, their family. They call it family. They consider it family. They're very tight, from the starters to the walk-ons. They're very, very tight. If you're in that locker room, you're part of something special at App State. That's what they really believe. So I appreciate you guys having me on and giving me a chance to talk about it.
No doubt, Dave. We'll let you go. Before we let you go, can you tell everybody, plug the Mountaineer Insider, how we can watch that, and about how we can hear your local shows there in Boone?
Yeah, the Mountaineer Insider, we do it weekly, and it airs on our one of our flagship stations and an affiliate of App State Sports in Boone, WATA. You can just go to goblueridge.net. We have an overall state. We have 5 stations. We have an overall group website. Click on Listen Live on WATA Wednesday nights at 6, and you can hear the Mountaineer Insider.
All right, sounds great. What about social media? How can people follow you?
I'm on Twitter at DT Radio Guy.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll let you go. Thanks for your patience tonight with our – I always say technology is great when it works. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate you, man, and get some sleep.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good night. Appreciate Dave very much. He's always been very good to us, Bubba, and I know that he working hard and getting up early in the morning, so we didn't want to take too much of his time, and he was patient. A long wait in the green room as we had technology issues, so great to have him. And Bubba, thanks for getting him on. It's great to catch up with him, and I have more respect for him as he moves back and changes his radio career to help out his mom, who's 91 and having some health issues.
Yeah, you had mentioned having Adam Witten on, and we'll certainly have Adam Witten on later in the season. It was well documented his call, just pure excitement and just that natural reaction, very much like a fan reaction instead of a play-by-play voice, and understandably so, with the way the Mountaineers defeated Troy last Saturday afternoon. But I'll tell you what, that was just a once-in-a-lifetime type of finish, and miracle on the mountain part 2, as they're calling it. But he was a natural to have on, Dave Thomas, that is, because we had already had Adam Witten on, and I knew his time would be tight. And then also David Ware, who we'd had on last week, talking about College Game Day being in Boone. So I thought we'd get that perspective with Dave Thomas being at James Madison for those 7 seasons.
Great to catch up with him pre-show. I didn't know that he had moved back to North Carolina and not with James Madison. So great to have. It's always great. Bubba, how big is your Rolodex now, man? For 4.5 years. Hey, by the way, Bubba, as people may not know, we're over 700 episodes. For people that thought we couldn't make it, over 700 episodes in 4.5 years. So we must be doing something right.
Yeah, the show continues to grow. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and really appreciate your support. Be sure to click subscribe on YouTube and ring that notification bell, so anytime we go live or release new content, you're alerted on whatever device.
No doubt. Do you want to talk about some games coming up? I know that we had planned on being off the air by now, so for those expecting maybe a little bit longer show, we're going to have Bubba and I are absolutely, you're not supposed to say it as a performer, but just to be real, we keep it real with the show. We're both exhausted. So we're not going to have the long show, the hour-long show that we normally have.
Yeah, keeping it short and sweet tonight. Did want to mention some of the top games taking place this weekend before we take a look nationally at some of the top 25 matchups and other games of interest. We will take a quick look around the American. Obviously, East Carolina hosted Navy. We previewed that on Tuesday night when we caught up with Pete Medhurst and got his thoughts on the matchup between the Pirates and Midshipmen. East Carolina, surprisingly, in a lot of people's eyes, surprisingly a 17-point favorite. But I guess when you look at this year's results, which is what matters, I guess it's not as surprising, but still just because of our history and struggling against Navy, particularly at Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium, it is shocking to see that 17-point spread. But also in the American, you had the battle for the Iron Skillet taking place out in Dallas as TCU. SMU's former coach, Sonny Dykes, is returning to the Hilltop. TCU is a 2-point favorite against the Mustangs.
That's crazy. I tell you what, there's some, they're talking about sneaky good. There's some scary good games. And that's another one, Bubba, that's pretty much when you call that, if it's 3 points or less, I'll pick them. I mean, I know it's like 2 points, but
yeah. And I about said that TCU's a 2-point favorite, but it's essentially a pick 'em, and that's a very intriguing matchup. And SMU's coming off a nail biting loss up at Maryland, looking to bounce back against their former coach, and that I think it's very safe to say no shortage of motivation anytime these two programs get together, and it's even more so this year with Sonny Dykes leading the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, that's crazy, but I know his dad is having history there as a coach at TCU, so it makes sense. It's just that's a tough one because you know how people in Texas love their football, and that's going to be a great game. I'll tell you another one, Bubba. Are you going to stay in the? I'm sorry, you're going to stay in the American?
Yeah,
right?
We'll go around the American, and then we'll talk nationally and regionally. But South Florida, the Bulls nearly took down the Gators last week in the Swamp. Unfortunately, unable to close it out. But encouraging nonetheless for Coach Scott and that program. And they are on the road this weekend again as they travel to Louisville. They're a 14.5-point dog to Scott Satterfield and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm just I know that there Matt and there are other people that nationally not talking about the big time matchups, but Bubba, there's a lot of I know you and I are big college football nerds. To me, there's a lot of good games that are around the nation that I don't think they got enough attention this week.
I agree. I think they're no, it may not be one of the best weeks, but at the same time, it's better than people are giving it credit for. And we'll talk about some of those games of national interest here in just a few minutes. Sticking within the American, you have Temple and first-year head coach Stan Drayton. They're a 9.5-point favorite at home against UMass. The Minutemen are really struggling. They've already been blown out down in New Orleans by Tulane. And this is one that Temple absolutely has to get at Lincoln Financial Field against the Minutemen. You have Cincinnati, the Bearcats, a 17-point favorite at home at Nippert Stadium as Big Ten foe Indiana comes to town. The Bearcats won last year. They're at Indiana. And this year, Indiana's off to a 3-0 start, but they haven't exactly played a stellar schedule to date. But the Hoosiers are 3-0 nonetheless, and will be coming from Bloomington, looking to knock off a heavy favorite in Cincinnati at -17. You have the Memphis Tigers. They're hosting North Texas. Memphis is a 12.5-point favorite at the Liberty Bowl. you have UCF, nearly a 3-touchdown favorite. Last weekend, the Knights bounced back with a win over FAU after falling the previous Friday night to Louisville. And Georgia Tech, man, Jeff Collins' ball club is really struggling.
Yeah.
I think he could be one of the coaches that has a fate similar to Herm Edwards and be fired before all 12 games are played.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Knights are 20.5 point favorite
Wow.
with Georgia Tech coming to the bounce house.
That's just unreal, isn't it? Like you thought Jeff Collins would be able to do very well, or do not. Thought he would do much better than has happened there with Georgia Tech. No disrespect to UCF, but Georgia Tech has really, really dropped off, and I know there are a lot of Yellow Jacket fans out there that, as much as they love their basketball and baseball, they definitely have got to see their football pick up in Atlanta.
Yep, and so moving on to the last few games involving AAC teams, Tulsa traveling to Oxford. They are a 22-point dog to Lane Kiffin's Rebels. You have the crosstown battle with Rice in Houston. Not sure what Rice has done the last game or two. I do know in the opener, and they went to the Coliseum, and Lincoln Riley and the Trojans beat them something like 63-14. Houston, they've been a disappointment to date. They won an overtime or multi-overtime game, I believe, in game one against UTSA in San Antonio. But since that victory in the Alamo Dome, they have – last week they lost to Kansas at home. And then prior to that, they had lost in Lubbock to Texas Tech in a nail-biter. So they are 1-2 and looking to get well, so to speak, against their crosstown rival Rice. And I think they'll do that. That would be, I think, one of my locks of the week, even though it's a rivalry matchup. I think they'll cover that 17.5. And then you have Tulane, the Green Wave, coming off that win in Manhattan against K-State, where they rolled the dice and went for it on fourth down and salted that one away, picking up a fourth down, or converting a fourth down, picking up a first down. They are about their own 20-yard line to beat the Wildcats. They are now 3-0, and they are hosting an improving Southern Miss team. The Golden Eagles are 1-2, but they did have a 4-overtime loss to Liberty, who's very good. Nearly took down Wake a week ago, and then they were competitive with Miami for about 2 or 2.5 quarters before coming up shy against the Hurricanes, and Miami pulling away down the stretch. And so it'll be interesting to see if Tulane can get to 4-0 in that one.
Yeah, they've been really good, Bubba, and obviously we could talk a long time, and we're not, but Tulane is one of those teams, a dark horse, if you will, for the American, and they're one of those teams that they have a great coach, great program. Who doesn't want to go to New Orleans if you're a college kid? They've really made it attractive, build a stadium that's on campus, and so they have a great thing going there. And I tell you what, when we go there in a couple weeks, we better be ready to play football.
Oh, no doubt. I know Kyle has been saying that for quite some time, that, those road games, the back-to-back road games after starting with 4 straight at home, going to South Florida and going to Tulane, keep an eye on those as far as, we're going to have to really handle our business, because you saw South Florida and what they're capable of, and they're a steadily improving team with a coaching staff that's been in place now for a few seasons. Finally, some continuity there in Tampa. And then also Willie Fritz. What a strange 2021 it was for the Green Wave, going 2-10, and they've already surpassed that. As I mentioned, they're 3-0 and looking to get to 4-0 this weekend in that rivalry matchup with former conference foe Southern Miss.
No doubt. That's a very short drive, as you know, Bubba, from Southern Miss and Hattiesburg. I remember I've actually been 3 times to Hattiesburg. I think that's right. And just going cutting through to go to Baton Rouge. To
Yeah,
the
I've actually never been to Hattiesburg. That's all. My dad went back in 2010. Coach Ruff's
Oh yeah.
first season. He and Greg Burke traveled via Amtrak to Hattiesburg, so they had quite the lengthy trip down to watch the Pirates win a thriller over the Golden Eagles that night, where I think we rallied from a 21-0 first quarter deficit to take down Southern Miss.
Yeah, and that Hattiesburg was a great college town, like we talked about, and again, very, very close to Baton Rouge. And I'm a huge fan of Mississippi. The people there are very. The thing about Mississippi I love is very friendly people. So good luck to both teams, the Green Wave, and certainly with Hattiesburg. In fact, let's give a shout out to Ron James. James is a friend of Kyle's who now has become a friend of ours. And James was watching earlier. They appreciate him and his support of the program over the years.
Yep. As you saw there, he was excited to hear us talking about the Sun Belt matchup between App State and James Madison, and then also hashtag Fun Belt, hashtag SMTTT, which is Southern Miss to the top.
I didn't know. Okay. I know Southern Miss to the top. I was trying to figure that out.
But shifting gears now away from the American, let's take a look at some of the games of national and regional interest. In the ACC, you have number 5 Clemson visiting number 21 Wake Forest, and that one, Clemson, I think, is about a touchdown favorite. And I really like the Tigers' chances of covering there. Wake's very good, but I just think that with the way Clemson, with the way they stop the run and their tremendous defense, I do think it will be a more competitive game than it was a year ago. Last year it was 48-27, and really wasn't that close, as I recall, down in Death Valley. But I do think that Clemson will win that one by more than the 7 or 7.5. So that one's on Saturday at noon on ABC in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, yeah, Bubba. I actually, I had that one is one that I've been struggling with, Bubba, because not again taking up too much time. But man, as much as I want to pick Clemson, I just have a feeling I'm a big. I know you are too, Bubba. You're a quarterback. For those that don't know, but Bubba is a really good quarterback from back in the day, not too far back in the day. I think this is going to be a nail biter, and this has been really difficult. As much as I want to pick Clemson and the conventional wisdom, and I love Dabo Sweeney and all that, look out for Sam Hartman. I think he's going to have a really big day, even though that defense is great. And I'm going for straight up. I think Wake Forest can pull up the upset. I really do. I don't know. Maybe that's the game that I've been really nervous about.
It wouldn't stun me, but yeah, I'll definitely go with Clemson. But Wake is definitely capable if Clemson doesn't go in there and they turn the ball over. You have DJU as they call him. Throw a couple picks or 3 picks or something like that, and Wake wins the turnover battle. But I just think that the edge in that matchup that they have defensively, in my opinion, is so strong. That's why I like Clemson so much. But Sam Hartman and Dave Clawson's offensive attack has really been impressive over the last 2 to 3 seasons, and he's done a nice job there, doing things that even Jim Grobe wasn't able to do. But sticking within the state, you also have Duke taking on Kansas. That is taking place on the road. Duke is traveling to Lawrence. They're a 7.5-point underdog. And then you also have Notre Dame visiting Chapel Hill, and then NC State, has what will be a breeze against UConn.
Yeah, if I tell you one thing, if NC State loses that game, oh my God, that would be. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Kyle from the Grange.
What's going on, fellas? I don't know what games you guys have previewed yet already.
We took a look around the American, and we're currently talking about some of the other in-state matchups. And before we move on nationally, we just mentioned Clemson, Wake, Duke, Kansas, and Notre Dame, North Carolina.
Is that game in Winston-Salem?
Yes,
it is. And Clemson is I think it's a 7-point favorite.
Okay, I don't know what to make of Wake. They struggle with Liberty. I really don't know what to make of Clemson either. Their defense is good. We talked about Kansas Duke some. I think Kansas covers that and wins by 2 to 3 touchdowns. Could be wrong, but that's my prediction on that one. And State UConn, that should be a bloodbath. USC Notre Dame, that one's interesting too. I like Carolina in that game. What's the line on that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Kyle. Just because the way Notre Dame struggled to score.
Bad.
Yeah, UNC's defense is pretty bad though.
And you're right. That's what I was just about to also say. As bad as North Carolina is defensively, I just think that
on the road
that with the game being in Chapel Hill, that Notre Dame is not going to be able to outscore them.
What's the line on that?
Just one moment. I think it's fairly large. Let's see. It is actually. I'm wrong on that. Dang, it's very close. It's essentially a pick 'em. North Carolina -2.
Okay, that's what I figured. I'd probably take Carolina to cover that and win. So, we got Matt here with the road noise.
Road rage, Semenza.
What's going on, guys? Can you hear me okay, or is it a little?
You sound good, Matt.
We got you, Grinder.
I'm just grinding away, fellas. I'm driving back from the great city of Boston right now.
Boston.
Headed back to Connecticut. I just had some nice chowder in Boston, and I'm heading back home.
Matt really went to Chestnut Hills to hand deliver a message from Pirate Nation to Boston College.
No doubt about it. I wasn't too far from Chestnut Hill, B. Rosenbaum, but
Rosenbaum.
But yeah, how's it going, fellas? How you guys doing?
So, Matt, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Which team do you hate the most, Boston College or Charlotte? Putting you on the spot, buddy. I'm putting you on the spot.
I mean, I definitely hate Charlotte. It's not that I hate Charlotte. I just don't respect them at all.
Yep.
And it bothers me that we have to be in a conference with them. But in terms of teams I hate the most,
Notre Dame?
Oh, no. I mean, it's more like West Coast. I just don't respect the Pac-12 either. So pretty much, the Arizonas, the Arizona States, just zero respect for those schools. But, hey, I don't know.
I'm going to disagree with you about the Arizona schools, Matt, because the talent in Arizona, and when I mean talent, I don't mean the football players. The
Right.
talent at the Arizona schools is spectacular. So you got to give them credit for that.
I'll never argue with you about that, my friend.
And the partying there in Arizona,
That goes hand in hand with the talent.
Yep. Yeah, it's very good. So the scenery, as Kyle would say, is very good.
Me personally, I hate Boston College more, but I'm with Matt. I don't respect Charlotte's football program and think they should be playing in the Colonial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, let's shift gears from the from the ACC to the SEC. I know this is certainly a game that will be, heavily anticipated and watched in the Semenza household, and that is the rivalry between Florida and Tennessee. The Gators going up to Neyland Stadium, and And yeah, they're hoping that they can continue to do what they've done to Tennessee. 16 out of 17, I think the Gators have won now. But I think this will be the Vols' year.
Oh yeah, you know that with Josh Heupel, man, has got that thing rolling in Knoxville, and they have. I just think with Florida, you know, Napier probably will turn it around, but they got to be patient with him. It's just not. They don't have the athletes that you would expect from Florida, or they're not playing up to their potential. And man, I think Matt, I don't know what the line is, guys, on that game, but I think Tennessee wins that one big.
I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 10.5.
It is. You're correct, Matt. It's Tennessee
only
by
10
and a half.
Yeah, I don't think it's a talent issue at Florida. I think it's a buy-in issue and just learning a new system, etc. With Billy Napier. It wouldn't surprise me to see Florida win that game, but I like the Vols to take care of business.
Yeah, actually, and Matt, you've probably heard this as well. You know, according to some people very close and in the know around that Florida program, they feel that it is a lack of talent, and then they feel that the buy-in with Billy Napier and his staff has been tremendous. So
yeah, but Bub, I heard that crap. Somebody's got some echo real bad. I heard that crap that what's his nuts? He's on ESPN at halftime just a minute ago. Previous head coach of Florida,
Dan Mullen.
I heard Dan Mullen wasn't recruiting well, and I don't buy that. I mean, I'm not close to the Florida program, but Matt would probably know better than me.
So I think a lot of their problems, I mean, I definitely think the talent's not where it was in the glory years, to say the least. But I think a big part of the problem right now is they just have a young quarterback, Anthony Richardson. I'm telling you guys, he is so talented. He is like a young Cam Newton. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's an incredible athlete, but he doesn't have the game reps yet. And I think that's really holding him back because he's turning the ball over. And he's not really at the point where he can read defenses to the level yet to win in the SEC. So I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, they're 2-1, and they had that upset win against Utah in the opener where the ball bounced their way and they made some plays in the clutch. The game against Kentucky, they lost 26-16. Richardson that you referenced, he had a critical pick six that he threw, and that allowed Kentucky to pull away, put that one away rather late. And then last week, Florida nearly got upset by South Florida. So definitely, I mean, Tennessee's clearly been the much more impressive team. Tennessee hasn't played that challenging of a schedule. They've had Ball State and Akron. And then they did have a solid road win at Pitt, which is far and away their most challenging game.
Yeah, that's a good win though. I mean, you could argue that
that's a heck of a win.
Yeah, I mean Pitt, are maybe better than Kentucky and Utah. Who knows? They're the defending ACC champions. Granted, they lost their best player to USC, but that should be an interesting game. I expect it to be closer than the 10. I think Tennessee wins it, but I bet you it's closer than that 10-point line.
I think the 10 is not enough. I feel like that maybe I'm wrong, but I think Anthony Richardson is one of those guys that he's so streaky because, like Matt said, he doesn't have the experience. So if he plays out of his mind, yeah, it's gonna be a tight game. But you also can see where there's flashes of greatness, but he's not. The good news for Florida fans, he's not where he needs to be. Where his ceiling is still very high, but I just feel like that Tennessee team. I don't know. I just have a feeling they're going to run away with it.
Well, Tennessee, they obviously have been very much a work in progress defensively. The schedule has been soft outside of Pittsburgh, and they're allowing between 14 and 15 points per game, which, despite fairly light schedule. That is a significant improvement over where they've been in recent years. So that combined with their offense, I have a feeling that if they can just slow down the Florida rushing attack and then not allow Richardson to beat him with the legs, because he's really not prepared to win a game with his arm right now. He's only thrown for about 430 yards in 3 ball games.
Yeah.
So I really think that I like Tennessee's chances of covering.
There's just a mental component to me for that game for the Vols, and every time they play Florida,
Definitely
Gotta-
is. They've lost 16 out of 17.
exactly. So that's why I think it may end up being closer. Plus, I think people may be overreacting to that South Florida game. I think there may have been a little look ahead to Tennessee. Kentucky's pretty good, so that loss to Kentucky, I just think the better team won. But I fully expect the Vols to win. But yeah, they may cover. I hope they cover. If I had to pick an SEC team, I'm a closet Vols fan. So.
Hey, by the way, guys, I got just came across. I was going to go to the game, but we had the show tonight. Congratulations to, in fact, you can hear and listen to our interview with Coach Gary Higgins. How about this, guys? We beat Houston tonight 1-0 at home at Johnson Stadium. So congratulations to the women's soccer team continuing to win. We give the Olympics love, guys. That's a big win for the Pirates. In fact, you have to go all the way back to Conference USA days. They're 2-0 now in the American Conference. They've never done that, first time ever for our program. So congratulations to Coach Higgins and the ladies from the ECU soccer team.
And that includes wins over top 25 Florida and SMU. So we got to be pretty close to the top 25 ourselves.
Yep. So let's talk about other football.
Let's see some other interesting games nationally. Within the Big 12, you have number 17 Baylor going to 3-0 Iowa State. The Cyclones are outside the top 25, but that's a intriguing matchup. You have Texas Tech. I really like this line. Texas Tech +7 at home against number 22 Texas. Obviously, UTSA is a very good football team, and they gave the Longhorns everything they wanted in Austin last week. But I like Texas Tech coming off a loss, returning home to host in-state rival number 22 Texas.
What's the line in that, Bubba?
It's +7.
Texas. I don't know. I have no idea how good Texas Tech is. I haven't watched them play except someone against NC State last week. Texas looked really good against Alabama.
Right, but I think part of my logic here, I think Quinn Ewers, I think he is out for several weeks.
That Texas quarterback.
Yes, so that's the same reason last week I took UTSA plus the 12.5 or whatever they were getting in Austin.
Okay. Then you could be right. Texas Tech might have a chance in that one.
But yeah, if Quinn was playing, I would take the Longhorns even on the road to cover that 7 in the spread. Obviously, it would not be 7, but whatever it would be, I'd still probably take them to cover it. But with the quarterback situation, that's the reason I would be going with them. And then shifting over to the SEC, but in the state of Texas, you had A&M bounce back with a big win over Miami after the upset against App State. So then you have Arkansas on the top 10 Razorbacks and got a scare from an FCS foe, Missouri State last week.
Yeah, but they're in the top 5.
Right, but I like Arkansas +2 at A&M.
So Arkansas 2-point dog on the road. I do too, actually. I like Arkansas to win that game. I think they were overlooking Missouri State. Obviously, Petrino has a chip on his shoulder by playing Arkansas. It's a good FCS program. They're trying to win a national championship there at Missouri State. So they actually there's been some talk about them moving up and joining Conference USA. So we'll see if that ever happens for Missouri State. But I like Arkansas in that game too, Bubba.
Yeah, and guys, Texas A&M, the strength of their team is defense. They only give up about 9 points per game, but they struggle to score. I mean, they really struggle to score. And last week, they won the game versus Miami, but I thought that was just as much Miami kind of handing them the game. You know, if you watched it, the Hurricanes were in the red zone a number of times and came away with nothing. Really conservative play calling from Miami last week. And I thought they kind of gift wrapped that game to A&M. So I'm not really a believer yet. I am a believer in their defense. The defense is fantastic, but, you know, the offense is not that great. And, you know, their best bet to win this game is to throw the ball, because Arkansas has one of the worst secondaries in the country, statistically. So if A&M's going to score points, they're going to need to throw it.
I don't think they have the ability to.
Yeah, I really don't think they do either. So I think Arkansas will outscore them.
Guys, how about this? The stat of the week: Arkansas has the worst pass defense in all of FBS. Like, well, it's 130 out of, I guess, 100.
Well, who have their opponents been besides Missouri State? That's a good question.
They played Spencer Rattler in South Carolina. They played, let's see, who else was it?
Cincinnati in the opener.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Okay, so they've been battle tested really through all three games, because I'm going to give Missouri State a little credit. That's not like playing, you know, Gardner Webb almost beat Coastal, but you know what I mean. That's not your typical FCS program. So so Texas A&M's battle tested also. It should be a pretty good football game against two teams that have played somebody. You know, Texas A&M's played App State and Miami. So both teams are battle tested.
Yeah,
no doubt. Go ahead, Dave.
And to me, it comes down to, I think with this matchup, it comes down to coaching. Sorry, everybody that loves Jimbo Fisher. I'm not a Jimbo Fisher fan. And I tell you one thing, my God, with Arkansas, they have one hell of a coach. I really like him a lot. I really do.
Yeah, Sam Pittman. Talk about a character.
Yeah,
that's when my dad heard one of his post-game interviews here recently. I'm trying to remember if it was after that South Carolina game, perhaps. But
a beer. I'm not promoting a beer.
But yes, he said something about enjoying a beer, and then after the interview was over, the ESPN announcers were like, "I think they're like a beer. I think he will put a dent in that case."
I tell you one thing, I would love. It's funny that you say that, Bubba. I would love to see Gary Rosenbaum and Sam Pittman drink some beer together. I think that would be fantastic. I would just sit back, and maybe we should record it and put it on the Sports Objective YouTube channel. That would be some podcast gold, baby. Gary Rosenbaum and Sam Pittman.
Yeah, we'll get them together.
Soon, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got Sam Pittman's number. I'll call him tonight.
Okay, go for it.
I will. I'm gonna tell him to keep Coach Brawls on standby for us if Houston leaves. Big fan of his. I think he'll be a head coach someday. The OC there at Arkansas.
So, guys, speaking of Bryles, I think B. Pays. It was either B. Pays or Sunhalter made a comment last night that if West Virginia moves on from Neil Brown, that Bryles might be a great fit in Morgantown. I thought that was pretty interesting. Bring that high octane attack into Morgantown, into the Big 12.
And
well, they've had it before. Neil Brown runs an air raid style offense, and then and I know that's not an air raid, but that you go back to old craphead at Houston, so it would be more of the same, really. I mean, I could see that hire making some sense, Matt, but it would be kind of more of the same. That would be three straight offensive-minded coaches. Something tells me people tend to want to change what they're doing. If you've hired an offensive guy, and you fire, you tend to go the other way. So I bet you they don't hire another offensive-minded guy if they fire Neil Brown. Although I do think Brawls would be a good hire anywhere.
That's one of the things that's so that would make, in my opinion, Kendall Briles so appealing because not only does he have a background as far as throwing the football, but the way they got the job done in that bowl game against the Tar Heels when they had all those people out. And, I'm trying to remember, it was something ridiculous, the number of players they had behind center that night catching snaps and, basically using a wildcat or what is it that Southern Miss is calling it?
Super back.
It's a super back type approach. And they ran for over 600 yards against North Carolina.
Yeah, if you don't know that's coming, if you don't prepare for that, that is an irritating thing to stop. So that was good coaching on Brawl's part there that night, and he's a crafty coach, and he's got obviously someone who will never be allowed to coach in college football again on speed dial, who's a great mind.
And somebody else that came up in that conversation last night for that West Virginia job, should it come open, and that is Hugh Freeze. B. Pays referenced somebody, very well-off businessman there in the Morgantown area, and he was talking about what he would do to get Hugh Freeze.
I can see that. Obviously, being there in Lynchburg, he's been recruiting the area. Liberty pays him well.
They would definitely be willing to look over his mishaps from the past, whereas some schools may not.
Well, if Liberty can overlook him, I mean.
And Liberty's paying him $3 million a year, and you have West Virginia. I mean, what do you think they would pay him? At least that, probably $4 million, maybe. I don't know.
They would have to go 4 to 5.
For him to leave.
Yeah,
I would think.
Speaking of West Virginia, if you're watching the game, they're leading Virginia Tech 13-7, and having in the red zone 3rd and goal. I really don't think West Virginia's that bad this year. I think if you look, they lost to a really good Pitt, they lost to a really good Kansas, and they ran both those games. Could have won them both. If they'd have won those games, people would be talking about West Virginia's the sleeper team to win the Big 12. So I wouldn't be surprised if West Virginia turns it around this year and ends up winning 8 or 9 games. It needs to start tonight, though.
I hope so, and I am always happy to see Virginia Tech lose personally. So, go Mountaineers!
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't like either one of them, but yeah, of the two, go Mountaineers.
Mountaineers all the way with Virginia Tech, and they're getting a little bit of it's nice to see Virginia Tech getting that humble pie, right?
4th and goal coming up for the Mountaineers that just missed.
The battle for the Black Diamond Trophy.
West Virginia lining up to kick a field goal right now, and it's good. So West Virginia up 16-7.
And what quarter is it, Kyle?
7 minutes, 4 seconds, 3rd quarter.
Gotcha. Okay. Boy, how abysmal is Virginia Tech's offense this year? I mean, they just cannot muster any points. I think they scored 27 on BC, but that's a down BC team, and only 14 on ODU. So they're struggling to score.
Yeah, they have no offense, and when I'm watching them play tonight, West Virginia secondary is bad, and that quarterback that they have, the Marshall transfer, is streaky as always, and he's got a cannon. And I would just go deep all night. I didn't think they went deep enough against Old Dominion, and I'll say it again tonight. That kid's got a big arm, and just looking at West Virginia's secondary, if I was Virginia Tech, I'd be throwing the ball downfield constantly.
No question about it. Looks like, man, I don't know. They've got a rough. Not that I'm hurt by it, but they've got a rough road ahead, I think, for Virginia Tech. Guys, one of the things, we're talking about the Navy game at ECU. Don't you think that you're starting to see our program really shoot up, and we're going to have a really big ceiling, whereas programs like Navy and Temple that have been up while we've been down, now they're coming down. It's like gravity, what comes up must go down.
Well, I think Navy and I think the academies in general with the transfer portal and NIL and with the new blocking rules that are in place, I think the academies as a whole may be on the way down. So Temple, yeah, they're trending downward. They were pretty competitive against Rutgers this past week, but so we'll see. I wish we played Temple early. They may get better as the season goes on, but Navy is definitely trending down. I hope that continues this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, Coach Houston again, very upset about them having a bye week, and we'll see how. Hopefully, the conference will stop giving them a bye week right before us, and that we'll finally have a chance to. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think the only difference is whether we cover or not this week.
The only difference, well, I mean, I don't know about that, Dave. I think we could lose the game, but I certainly think the Pirates get the W. But I'm not gonna, it's not Campbell. I'm not gonna go and sit there and say there's no chance Navy can beat us because that'd be foolish based on history.
No doubt. And guys, what do you think about? I know Matt, you love the Pac-12 as you just talked about earlier in the show, but what about? Bubba was asking about USC Oregon State.
Well, it's funny, the odds makers have that game very tight. I think it's like 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken. I'm in the car. But it kind of surprised me a little bit. And I don't know what to make of Oregon State, to be honest, fellas. I think USC will win the game. I think they'll outscore them. But, hey, look, let's face it. Everybody's saying Lincoln Riley is his first year. He's turned over the program, this and that. But in the era of the transfer portal, you can turn over a program pretty quick nowadays. And especially when you're at USC and you can basically just, shake your finger and have 10 to 15 guys that want to come play football there. So, I mean, you got to give him credit. He's brought in really good players. But so much of his success right now, beyond the fact that he's a great play caller, is the fact that he benefited from the transfer portal big time.
Yeah, they got talent out there. They already had talent, and then like you said, transfer portal. They got the kid from Pitt, who's arguably the best receiver in college football. Oregon State's pretty good. I watched them play Boise. They're pretty good last year too. Is that game in Corvallis or LA?
I'm not sure.
I'm assuming for the line to be closest in Corvallis.
I think it's in Corvallis, Kyle.
Okay. I like USC to win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon State gave them a game.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be running away. And Lincoln Riley is a heck of a coach, but it's not that they're god awful. But just imagine Lincoln Riley in a few years with USC. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, and I think you win Pac-12 this year. Pac-12 is not that great this year. I mean, Washington looks pretty good. Oregon's pretty good. Oregon State's all right, but I think he could win it in year one. I think Oregon and Washington will have something to say about it. But this is, I guess, this is his first real test. Stanford probably isn't very good, so this is his first real test. Yeah. So we'll find out more about what USC is this week.
No doubt, guys. And Matt, to me, the most overrated football program in America, and maybe this is a stretch, but talk about that Texas team. When is Texas? Everybody talks about how Texas is back. And I'm not going to go. I know we're going long tonight. But when is Texas going to be back? I'm so sick and tired of the media talking about how Texas is back, Texas fans. I do like Coach Sark, but my God, every time you turn around, you hear about Texas is back, Texas is back, Texas is back.
Well, I think their quarterback, had he not got hurt, I think it could have been this year. They could have won the Big 12, and they still might. Depends on what you mean by back. You mean back as in terms of competing for a national championship or compete for a Big 12 title? I mean, I think they can compete for a big. How long is their quarterback going to be out for? If he's going to be back soon, then I think they can compete. I think they can compete with Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship this year.
I'm not saying that they're bad, but what I'm talking about with Texas, with their fans especially, and even the media, is that the expectations are going to be up there with when Mac Brown had them up so high, and that was what, 2006. They've been at that level to win a national championship in that range.
It's been a while since they've been at that elite level, and there's certain teams every year, Dave and Kyle, like no matter what, they're going to be ranked in the top 25. Texas and Miami come to mind very quickly.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Yeah,
Notre Dame. Good Lord, Notre Dame. Oh, my God. But like Miami, I feel like they're perennial. I mean, every year they're overrated, in my opinion. But to your point, Dave, I mean, Texas, I think they have everything it takes to be an elite program. I think Sark's a good coach. God knows they have the recruiting grounds.
Yeah.
Fertile recruiting grounds. But it's interesting. You know, they're competing now against A&M and the SEC. So many schools in Texas. It's got.
Yeah, but nobody's got more money than Texas. So in the day and age of NIL, this should be when Texas is able to really build something.
No doubt. I mean, you know that they've got their budget is what can we do in East Carolina, man, if we had that budget? Oh my goodness, with that budget they have in Austin with Texas, man, they have got a budget to die for.
We had half their budget.
Do what?
So I wish we had half their budget.
Well, that's true. Yeah, no doubt about it. But they're it's going to be interesting to see how if they can. And then you have that matchup this week, but the Red River, what is it? The Red River rivalry, I guess it's called now. That's going to be. I think you're right, Kyle. I think they can give Oklahoma. Still, we'll see how they play out. Do you guys have anything before we go? We've been running a little bit long tonight, but we obviously love talking college football here on the Inside.
Is there anything interesting in? I don't know if Bubba's still producing here. Is there anything interesting out of the Sun Belt Conference USA, MAC, Mountain West? Any of those leagues have any interesting games this week?
There is, Kyle. There is. In my opinion, App versus JMU.
Okay, that was probably talked about before we got home. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Yeah, we had Dave Thomas on, who was a play-by-play voice with James Madison. Now he's covering. It's interesting. Moved back to Boone to take care of his 91-year-old mom in that area, and he's in radio there, and moved back to North Carolina to take care of her. And so now he's gone from being the play-by-play voice of James Madison, and now he transitions, and now he's doing a weekly show about the Mountaineers. And so, cool thing there. It was great to have a catch up with him yet again.
Is that in Boone or Harrisonburg?
That's in Boone, and that's going to be a rocking atmosphere. I think because it's in Boone, you got to give the edge to obviously Appalachian State. It's going to be a tight. That's going to be. You're right, Matt. That's going to be. All these. I said this early in the show, guys. That before you were on, all the media has talked about how this is a down week. Well, guess what? There's a lot of good games that are under the radar. That to me, even though you don't have the marquee matchups maybe they want, it's still a lot of good football to be played this week.
Yeah, James Madison and App's interesting. App's defense to me is questionable. I know they beat A&M, but A&M doesn't have any offense.
Right.
So App's got a great offense. That could be a shootout. Wouldn't surprise me if James Madison won that one. That's going to be a good game. I'm not saying I'm taking the Dukes, but that'll be a real good game. How about Bowling Green upsetting Marshall in overtime after they beat Notre Dame and the Falcons fans stormed the field from a game from last week?
Yeah, pretty impressive. I mean, you wonder, was that just a hangover game for Marshall? I mean, I don't know much about Bowling Green.
Yeah, Bowling Green's not very good. I think they are a little better. I think they're a little better this year than they have been. But yeah, I think it was a hangover game for Marshall, and that's a rivalry game. People don't realize that. Those schools are very close geographically, and they were rivals back in the MAC days. So it's a big deal for Marshall to come to Bowling Green, now non-conference, and they made that game homecoming. And it by Bowling Green standards, that stadium was packed. So yeah, hangover, and it was kind of Bowling Green Super Bowl.
Isn't college football amazing, guys? I mean, look at Marshall. Literally, they were on top of the world, right? Nobody gave them a chance in South Bend. They go in there, they pull the upset. Probably, I'm guessing, there's a natural letdown, and then college football can just humble you in a heartbeat. You go into Bowling Green and then lose.
It almost happened to App. I think App got lucky, quite frankly, at the end. It was well executed. It wasn't just luck. But yeah, that was classic trap game. You're playing a rival game, and the rivalry is more important to the other team. It's on the road. You just had a huge upset win. Classic trap game for the Herd at Bowling Green.
Oh, no doubt about it. My God, even though Notre Dame is not as good this year, the fact that you can go into South Bend and beat Notre Dame, are you kidding me? That's a great win for that program. And the Thundering Herd, great football program, obviously.
Who does Marshall play this week? Who are they off, or they get to bounce back and try to get that Bowling Green taste out of their mouth? Do either one of you know?
I haven't heard that about them. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You're supposed to know.
Let me ask you guys this: Do you have a sleeper team that you think's being undervalued? That's really kind of off the radar a little bit. That you think could, make a run? Maybe I'm not saying get into the playoff, but be maybe like a top 7 team.
Maybe USC that we talked about earlier. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Lincoln does that in year one. I think his old team, Oklahoma, I don't even know where they're ranked right now, but they've been a little. I think people thought they were going to take a big step back this year, and so far they've been running like a well-oiled machine. I really don't know how big of a surprise you would consider Oklahoma if they were top 7, though. Besides that, I'd have to give it some more thought, Matt. Well, you have somebody in mind, clearly. Who is it?
Just keep an eye on Penn State, guys. Just keep an eye on there.
Oh, my God, Matt. I was getting ready to say, oh, my God, that is so weird. I was getting ready to say, yeah, that's why we're friends. I was getting ready to say Penn State because I really like their coach. I really like that. I mean, that division, guys, it was talked about on the radio, too. It's a good point that you look at the ACC, and the ACC has already scheduled a lot of good matchups, including Clemson-Wig, when they should push it into October. And you look at the Big Ten. I'm going to give some love to your conference, Matt. The Big Ten East, there's matchups. There's a lot of teams that could be, Matt, 4 or 5-0, and so in October, and obviously they have to play each other at some point. But I think the ACC has been, truthfully, I think the ACC is more worried about where their conference headquarters are going to be than their conference. And if they're not careful, they won't have a conference. There's your hot take right there. So I'm glad that they could get out of the way. They're going to move to Charlotte. That's more important than keeping your conference. So
I think the ACC, because their NIL deal, not their NIL deal, because their grant of rights deal and their contract with ESPN losing the Big Ten, I think the ACC is probably fine for now. But as far as saving your marquee matchups for October and November, yeah, I think that, makes a lot of sense. I really don't give a crap what the ACC does, but I get what you're saying.
Hey, by the way, here's one for you, Matt and Kyle. Robert says Kansas might contend for Big 12.
They could. I don't know that they have the defense to do that, but their offense is really good. They might contend for the Big 12. I'm gonna say that's probably a year away, maybe 2 years away. But they'll definitely be a bowl team. He's a heck of a football coach. He did a great job at Buffalo, and he's doing a great job at Kansas in year 2.
Hey guys, we mentioned the team earlier. The one that I'm like a dark horse, one that could sneak into right. Well, not maybe I wouldn't say the CFP, but under the 4-team format that we have now. But man, we were talking about Sam Pittman. That Arkansas team has been such a disappointment for those fans in Fayetteville for so long, and then all of a sudden you take a guy like Sam Pittman. You want to talk about? We were talking about earlier about Florida when Napier, with people buying in. What about Sam Pittman, the buy-in that those players have done in Fayetteville, and where Arkansas football is where those fans want it to be?
Well, it's funny you say that. If you look at the SEC West, Texas A&M's offense sucks. Alabama is not as good as they normally are. They're good, but not as good as they normally are.
Yeah.
LSU is good, but not as good as they normally are, though. I do think Brian Kelly will get them even better as the year goes on. So if ever there was a year for somebody to sneak up and have a chance to win the West, it may be this year for Arkansas.
Point. Very good point.
Yeah, he's done it. Brett Bielema really tanked that program. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
He was on par with, dare I say, fellas, Scotty Moe in East Carolina.
Yeah, but you got to remember there was a coach in between Bielema and Sam Pittman. You had what's his face from Chad Morris that was there for 5 minutes. So
yeah, he was not. Chad Morris was not the guy for Arkansas, and I don't know why.
I don't think Brett Bielema was.
You think Chad Morris was?
I think it was if you were going to hire Chad Morris, what he does offensively is so drastically different than what Bielema does. You're going to have to give him 4 years, and Arkansas was not prepared to do that. So it was a dumb hire. I think Bielema. I think Bielema's a decent coach. I just think he's a terrible fit for Arkansas. He's doing all right at Illinois this year, isn't he? What are they? Ain't they like 3-1, 2-1, 2-2, something like that?
Yeah, and that's wouldn't you say, Matt? You're a Big Ten guy. He was not an SEC guy. He was more of the fit for the Big Ten, and that's why you take normally a not good Illinois team, and he's making them. It looks like he's making them relevant again.
Yeah, I always thought it was a really odd fit when he left Wisconsin to go to Arkansas. It seemed very strange. He's a Big Ten guy through and through. I mean, he loves to recruit big linemen. He has his ties are to the Midwest. He's doing a good job in Illinois this year, but and I think a lot of his success at Wisconsin was he followed up from Barry Alvarez. He inherited a tremendous program, and he just knew to keep recruiting the big offensive linemen up front and keep running the football. And so I think that's what he is. And but yeah, I don't see him as a guy that can coach in the SEC.
Matt, do you see as far as him now? What's the ceiling for Illinois? It wasn't Lovie Smith.
In my opinion, I think they're a mid-tier, a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team. I think that's their ceiling.
Yeah, I agree 100%. They're a basketball school, and they haven't been tremendous in basketball recently. And they got pretty high academic standards out there. And one of the worst logos of college football. There's not much to draw. And I've been to Champaign, Illinois. There's not much there's not much to draw you to want to come play there. I think middle of the pack is probably about right, and I think Illinois football fans would be content with that if they were a consistent bowl team, as bad as they've been over the last 20 years or so. If they were a 6 to 8 win team on a consistent basis, I think they'd be pretty satisfied.
No doubt about it, especially when they're normally towards the bottom of the pack. In the Big Ten, just the middle of the pack would be, that would be a huge upgrade for sure. Do you guys have anything before we go? Running about 90 minutes long, so anything before?
I'm all good, fellas. Good to chime in. Thanks for helping me pass the time on my trip back from Boston.
I got nothing. I'm gonna try to be at the Navy game Saturday. Hopefully, I feel exhausted today. Overexerted myself yesterday. So plan to be at the Navy game Saturday. And Dave, are you working tomorrow?
I will be working tomorrow. Yes, sir.
I'll see you in the morning.
What time?
10 a.m.
All right.
I do have a final thought, Dave. Hang 1 second.
Okay.
Did Kyle buy a white shirt? That's what inquiring minds want to know.
I actually,
Kyle,
Matt, I actually realized I do have an old East Carolina white T-shirt.
Yes.
That will
Nice.
probably fit me now again.
Yes.
May or may not wear it. I don't know.
you got to wear it. You got to take a picture.
I don't have to wear it.
We're gonna post it on the Sports Objective.
No, you're not.
Yes.
I promise you, you're. If I wear a white T-shirt, nobody's posting a picture anywhere because fat guys shouldn't wear white, and there's a reason for that. But I may or may not wear it. I think it.
Like Kevin Nash, we're gonna call you Big Sexy.
Just like the white helmets aren't going to have much effect on whether we win or lose. Neither will if I wear white or not. So, by the way, that'll be a hot take for me real fast as we wrap this up. Some of our fans, and if you're just saying it to be stupid or to be funny, if you really think we can't win in a white helmet, that a white helmet dictates whether we win or lose, you're a complete moron. The only way it dictates is if you get it in the players' heads, and then it becomes fundamental for them. But people said we couldn't win in purple pants until we beat UNC in all purple. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
So I mean, come on, it's a friggin' helmet. I've never in my life. Oh, you in a white helmet? No, we can't win in a white helmet. Yeah, we won in a white helmet. We beat Connecticut. It was UConn and it was Scotty Montgomery, but we won in white helmets. Just like we couldn't win in Birmingham until we did, and then we beat UAB several times in a row in Birmingham. So I mean, get off that, guys. When we hopefully take care of business this Saturday, we won't have to hear anything about not being able to win in a white helmet again. That's so stupid.
What about the John Thompson?
Well, those are just bad looking. The highlighter yellow jerseys were just ugly. It wasn't nothing to do. We couldn't win in anything and playing under John Thompson. But
I know.
we could have been buck naked, and then the other team might have ran away out of fear at that point. But that would have been the only way we would have won under John Thompson. Those were ugly jerseys. I would like to see us do a yellow helmet or gold helmet, whatever you're going to call it at some point. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. Dave, we're ready to wrap it up. We need to talk about sponsors. What do we need to do?
Yeah, let's do that. In fact, I want to thank all our great sponsors. In fact, guys, if anybody wants to be a part of the show, they can definitely do that and help out the cause, as they say, and help us pay the bills. That will be fantastic. In fact, L&K Custom Homes, want to give a shout out. In fact, they actually had some stuff on. By the way, I was going to tell you guys with L&K Custom Homes, Kevin Walker did on Facebook a house he did. Give Kevin a call. That he's actually our wonderful title sponsor for the Pirate Playback, and we'll have that Sunday night for you for sure. Want to give a shout out to Porky's Backyard Barbecue, as they are our sponsor as well, and PGXGloves.com. I want to thank them for their support of the program. In fact, Kyle, you can get a lot of cool things, can't you? With PGX gloves.
Yeah, if my dog will not drown me out with her squeaky toy, yeah, you can get all kinds of cool gloves for you if you play golf, if your kid plays football, baseball, whatever. They got all your sports gloves needs, customizable. Go to pgxgloves.com, and we don't have the graphic up on the screen, but I believe that promo code is ECU, and you save something, Dave. You save some money.
25%.
25% with promo code ECU. So there you go. Go to pgxgloves.com and spend a lot of money.
Sounds good to me, as we'll have Pirates Life with Bubba talking to Pirate Al, and that'll be tomorrow, our Friday coverage. And, of course, the sights and sounds of East Carolina, the stadium. Bubba will have that on Saturday. And, of course, we mentioned the Pirate Playback all coming up. That'll be on Sunday to wrap up. Good luck to the Pirates, and get out there, get loud, get your tickets, 1-800-DIAL-ECU. And you could be one of the thousands of people to get autographs from Kyle on Saturday afternoon. ECPirates.com, 1-800-DIAL-ECU. For Bubba Rosenbaum, Dave Thomas, Matt Semenza, Kyle Barber, I'm Dave Richmond. And reminding you, as always, go Pirates.